Okay, so 6.2 part A, the key to this. Okay, so in this section, remember the leading coefficient of your trinomial is going to be 1 in all of these. Now, when you get to this one, to 9 and 10, remember, actually 9, 10, and 12, I'm sorry, yeah, 12, you want to look for GCF. There's a GCF other than 1. So all of these, the GCF was 1. Again, you always look for GCF just like you did in the previous section. But in particular, the coefficient of the squared terms will be 1. So that's the easy kind. In the next section, the coefficient of the squared term is not going to be 1, or the leading term is not going to be 1. Okay, so in number 1, we have y squared plus 4y minus 12. All right, and so the GCF is 1. So we're going to go directly to two binomials. And these are the easy kinds because we're going to use the idea of FOIL. And then we're going to think about product and sum here as well. So FOIL, product, and sum. Okay, so in terms of FOIL, remember when you FOIL two binomials, first times first is going to give you this first term here. The outer and the inner is going to give you the middle term. And then the last times last is going to give you the last term. Okay? And then also remember your sign rules. The last sign's negative. In order for that to happen, the signs in here have to be different. One's positive, one's negative. Okay, so negative times a positive is a negative. So as you go through this, you're gonna have to keep that in mind. So the first is easy right here. The first is easy because y times y is y squared. Okay, so therefore, and we're gonna look at the signs later on, but later on in this problem. But for right now, I know that the last term is negative 12. Okay, so the product, I want two numbers whose product is negative 12 and whose sum is 4. So that's what I'm interested in. So the product is C and the sum is B. All right, so we're going to think of that as we go through the FOIL. So let's just think for right now, let's just think of two numbers whose product is negative 12. So there's something like 4 times negative 3, negative 3 times 4. There's 6 times negative 2, negative 2 times 6, 12 times negative 1, negative 12 times, I'm sorry, these are the same, weren't they? I should have, okay, 4 times negative 3, a positive 3 times a negative 4. I should have kept those the same. Let me just do this. All right, let me do it over. So 4 times negative 3, negative 4 times 3, 6 times negative 2, negative 6 times 2, 12 times negative 1, negative 12 times 1. Okay, so those are all possibilities. But remember, that's your last. So the last times last, so that's what we said product. Okay, so keep in mind why we said product. Why do we say product here? Because the last times the last, remember FOIL, the last times the last has to be negative 12. So this times this, so hence product has to be negative 12. And remember, when you add these up, down the inner, when you add them up, hence the sum, I want that middle term right here. So hence B. Okay? All right, so here, you see the sum of 4 plus negative 3 is a positive 1, but I want a 4. So let's see, the one that's going to work, if you think about it, will be these two numbers, because that sum is 4. All right, so what I'm going to do now is, and it doesn't matter where you put this for right now, only because this leading coefficient is 1. If it was something other than 1, it would matter, but then you can always check yourself to see what actually works. So I'm going to say positive 6, y plus 6, and then y minus 2. All right, so this is the answer, but let's check it. Let's check this. Y times y is y squared. Let's go to the last. Positive 6 times a negative 2 is a negative 12, so that works so far. Now do the outer and the inner. The outer, y times a negative 2 is a negative 2y. The inner, 6 times y is 6y. And when I add them up, I get 4y, and this is what you wanted. So the answer number 1 is y plus 6 times y minus 2. And it really didn't matter. I'm not going to do it for all these, but I'm not going to do it for the rest of these. But it didn't matter whether you said y plus 6 times y minus 2 or y minus 2 times y plus 6. Because remember, multiplication is commutative. The order in which you multiply does not matter. 5 times 6 is the same as 6 times 5. Okay, it does not matter. Okay, number 2. You have y squared minus 6y plus 8. So I'm going to use the same idea. I'm going to use this idea here. So the GCF is 1. GCF is 1, so I'm going to go directly to two binomials. I'm going to think of FOIL. I'm going to use the idea of product, and I'm going to use the idea of sum to help me with this. So I want, remember in FOIL, first comes first, y times y is y squared, so that's an easy one. All right, so I know that y has to be there. Now let's think about that positive 8. Let's think about this for a moment. Remember, and that's going to help you in the next section as well, and as you go through your factoring. The last sign's positive, which means that in order for the last sign to be positive, remember you realized a positive times a positive is a positive, or a negative times a negative is a positive. All right, now remember though, you want the last sign to be positive, and you want the outer and the inner to add up to be this middle sign right here, to this middle term. Okay, so I need it to be negative. All right, so let's think. I need the product, last times last, to be positive 8. So I need the product to be 8. And I need the sum to be this coefficient of the middle term. So I need the sum to be negative 6. All right, so I got to think of two numbers whose product is 8 and whose sum is negative 6. For example, you may say, all right, well, what about 8 times 1? Well, 8 times 1 is positive 8. That is true. But when I add them up, I get 9, so it doesn't work. Now, that one's not that bad. You should have figured that one out already. So the answer would be 4 times 2. Well, 4 times 2, but think about this, and this is where you're going to have to think about the word opposite. 4 times 2 is 8. That is true, but when I add them up, I get 6. But I'm almost there. I want its opposite. So what I need is a negative 4 and a negative 2 instead. So that's the one I'm going to use because their sum is a negative 6. So again, it doesn't matter whether you put negative 4 here or negative 2 here, only because the last sign, the coefficient of the leading term is 1. So you're going to say y minus 4, y minus 2. And if you check it using FOIL, first times first is y squared. A negative 2 times a negative 2 is a positive h. So that takes care of the L. And the out and the inner. The outer is negative 2y. The inner is negative 4y. And when I add them up, a negative 2 and a negative 4 is a negative 6. So I get a negative 6y. All right, so the answer is y minus 4 times y minus 2. Okay, so number 3, I get x squared minus 6x minus 27. All right, so again, the GCF is 1. So I'm going to go directly to two binomials. And I'm going to use the idea of FOIL, product, sum to help me. All right, so for the first is easy here only because the leading coefficient is 1. The coefficient of the leading term is 1. So x times x is x squared, so that's fine. Now remember, let's go to the last. So this times this has to be a negative 27. So I need my product to be a negative 27. And when I do the outer and the inner, I need that to add up, hence the word sum. I need that to add up to a negative 6. Well, actually negative 6x, but I'm going to use a coefficient. Okay, so let's think of two numbers whose product is negative 27, and that adds up to be 6. All right, so let's see. 9 times what? 9 times 3? So we can make this, if you made this, let's say 9 times a negative 3, that is true. 9 times a negative 3 is a negative 27, but when you add them up, you get a positive 6. 9 and a negative 3 is a positive 6, but I want a negative 6, so we're almost there. All you got to do is change the signs, and then you got it right here. When you add them up, right here, when you add them up, you get negative 6. So these are the two numbers I'm going to use. So I'm going to say x minus 9 times x plus 3. And again, FOIL it out. Check it out first before you go on. X times x is x squared, so that takes care of that. Negative 9 times a positive 3 is a negative 27, so that takes care of L. Now let's go to the outer and the inner. The outer is 3x, The inner is negative 9x. When I add them up, I get negative 6x. And so that's what you wanted. So the answer to number 3 is x minus 9 times x plus 3. All right. Okay, number 4. Number 4, you have x squared minus 7x minus 18. X squared minus 7x minus 18. All right, now the GCF is 1, so we go directly to two binomials. We use FOIL, product, and sum. So the F part of FOIL is easy because x times x has to be x squared. So I know that has to be an x here in the first term of each binomial. Okay, now the last times the last. So we look at the last. The last times the last has to be a negative 18. So I need the product to be negative 18. And when I do the outer and the inner, I need that sum to add up to be a negative 7x. So I need the sum to be negative 7, the coefficient. Look at the coefficient only for right now. All right, so I need two numbers whose product is negative 18. So like 6 times a negative 3 is a negative 18, but that's not going to work because when I add these up, I get that sum to be 3, a positive 3, but I would need a negative 7. So let's say 9 times a negative 2. Okay, 9 times a negative 2 is a negative 18. That is true. But when I add them up, I get that sum to be 7. So I'm almost there. I just got to do the opposite, though. So it's going to be negative 9 times a positive 2. So that's the one I need because that sum is negative 7. So then my answer is going to be x minus 9 times x plus 2. But again, check your work before you go on. Do the FOIL method on this. X times x is x squared. A negative 9 times a positive 2 is a negative 18, so that takes care of L. And then the outer is 2x. The inner is negative 9 times x, negative 9x. And when I combine like terms, I get negative 7x, and that's what you wanted. So the answer number 4 is x minus 9 times x plus 2. All right, now number 5. Okay, number 5 has two variables in it, so it's the same idea, except you have two variables. All right, number 5. You have u squared plus uv minus 6v squared. So u squared plus uv minus 6v squared. All right, so the GCF is still 1. So the GCF is 1. So I'm going to go directly to two binomials. So I need the product to be, all right, well, let's think of FOIL for right now. Then we talk about product and sum. So u times u is u squared. So far we're okay. All right, now I need the last right here. This times this has to be a negative 6v squared. Not a negative 6, but a negative 6v squared. So I know that I'm going to have a v in both of these. So I'm going to have to have a v here because v times v is v squared. I just got to figure out what my negative 6 needs to be here. Okay, so I need the product to be negative 6, and I need the outer and the inner to add up to be this uv. So this has a coefficient of 1. So I need the sum to be 1. All right, so let's think about two numbers whose product is negative 6 and whose sum is 1. All right, so for example, 3 times a negative 2. 3 times a negative 2 is a negative 6, and hey, right away, I get that sum to be 1, and so there are my two numbers. So then I get u plus 3 times v. Don't forget, you got to say 3v. So u plus 3 times v times u minus 2v. All right? Okay, check yourself. U times u is u squared, so that takes care of the f of FOIL. A positive 3v times a negative 2v is a negative 6v squared. That takes care of the L of FOIL. Now I have to do the outer and the inner. So the outer, u times a negative 2v is a negative 2uv. Put it in alphabetical order. You don't have to. You could have said negative 2vu, but we always tend to put things in alphabetical order. And over here, 3v times u is a positive 3uv. And when I combine these two terms, when I add them up, I get a positive 1 uv, which is what I wanted. So there's your answer. So the answer to number 5 is u plus 3v times u minus 2v. So u plus 3v times u minus 2v. Okay, number 6. Number 6 has two variables again. All right, so get x squared minus 14xy plus 4, sorry, wrong one. Number 6, x squared plus 7xy minus 30y squared. All right, so the GCF is 1. So I'm going to go directly to two binomials. I'm going to use idea of FOIL, product, sum. FOIL, product, sum. So in terms of FOIL, for f, x times x is x squared, so we're good so far. All right, that takes care of the f. Now let's look at the last. So this times this, the last term of each binomial, that product has to be a negative 30y squared. Now, not negative 30, but a negative 30y squared. So that means that in the last term, I've got to have a y, because y times y is y squared. All right, now let's figure out what these numbers here, these numbers need to be to get a negative 30. So I need the product to be negative 30, and I need that sum to be well, the on the end to be this positive 7xy, the middle term. So I'm going to look at the coefficient for right now. So the coefficient is 7. So we got to come up with two numbers whose product is negative 30 and whose sum is 7. So remember, one's going to be positive, one's going to be negative. There's the only way I can get a negative product. So for example, 6 times a negative 5 is a negative 30. But that's not going to work because when I do the sum, 6 and a negative 5 is a positive 1. So that didn't work. All right, so you may say, well, what about 15 and negative 2? Well, that's not going to work either, because although the product is negative 30, 15 times a negative 2 is a negative 30, my sum in this case is a 13. All right, so let's say 10 and negative 3 instead. 10 times negative 3 is a negative 30, that is true. And when I do add them up, I do get 7, which is what I wanted. So there are my two numbers. So I'm going to get x plus 10 times y, and then x minus 3 times y. All right, again, before you go on, you should always check your work. X times x is x squared. For the last, a positive 10y times a negative 3y. Y times y is y squared. A positive 10 times a negative 3 is a negative 30. And then finally, the outer and the inner. X times a negative 3y is a negative 3xy. 10y times x is a positive 10xy. When I combine like terms, 3 and 10 and a negative 3, so I get 7xy, which is what I wanted. So that's the answer number 6. Number 6, you're going to have x plus 10y times x minus 3y. Okay, number 7. All right, so let's see what we get in number 7. Number 7, you have x squared minus, x squared minus 14xy plus 48y squared. So x squared minus 14xy plus 48y squared. So again, the GCF is 1, so I'm going to go directly to two binomials. And I'm going to use idea of FOIL, product, and sum. FOIL, product, and sum. The first is easy. The f part of the FOIL is easy because x times x is x squared. All right, now let's think about the last times last. So I need these two terms right here. Whatever I put here, I need those to contain the y because y times y has to give me that y squared. But I need those two terms to have a product of 48y squared, a positive 48 for that matter. All right, so I need that product to be a positive 48, and I need that sum, when I do the outer and the inner, that sum to be a negative 14xy. So I need that sum, These two numbers here, whose product is 48, I need them to add up to be a negative 14. All right, so the only way, if you think about it, the only way that you can get a product that's positive and the sum is negative is for those two signs in here to be both negative. A negative times a negative is a positive. A negative plus a negative is a negative. Okay? All right, so let's see. You could say, I don't know, you could say 4 times 12 is 48. But that wouldn't work to begin with. That wouldn't work because 4 plus 12 is 16, positive 16. Even if you made it negative 4 and negative 12, that is still 48, but this time the sum is a negative 16. Remember, you do want negative, so both of those would have to be negative. Just keep that in mind. All right, so then let's try, let's try 7 and 6. All right, 7 and, oops, sorry, wrong one. 7 and 6 is 42, so that's going to work. Let's try 8 and 6 instead. So 8 times 6 is 48, but remember, I need it to be negative, so let's think about this. They both have to be negative in order for that sum to be negative. A negative 8 times a negative 6 is a positive 48, and when I add them up, I do get a negative 14, which is what I wanted. So my answer is going to be x minus 8y times x minus 6y. All right, so 8x minus 8y times x minus 6y. And again, check your work. X times x is x squared. The last, a negative 8 y times a negative 6y is a positive 48y squared. And the out and the inner, the outer is a x times a negative 6y is a negative 6xy. Negative 8y times x is a negative 8xy. And when I add them up, I do get a negative 14xy. And that's what you wanted. So that's the answer number 7. So number 7, you have x minus 8y times x minus 6y. Okay, number 8, you have m squared minus 7mn minus 8n squared. So m squared minus 7mn minus 8n squared. All right, so the GCF is 1, so I'm going to go directly to two binomials. So I'm going to use idea of FOIL, product, and sum to help me. So in terms of the FOIL for f, m times m is m squared, so that's easy. Those both have to be m's there. Again, the last, they go directly to the last this time right here, the last. This times this has to be a negative 8n squared. So I need these to be n's right here. And I got to figure out what these numbers are going to be. All right, so I need this times this to be a negative 8n squared. So I got to figure out what numbers need to be here in order for that product, this times this, to be a negative 8. And when I add them up, when I add up the out and the inner, I get a negative 7mn. All right, so I need the product to be negative 8, and I need the sum to be negative 7. Okay? All right, so let's think about this. I need two numbers whose product is negative 8 and whose sum is negative 7. Well, the one that will work, I mean, you wouldn't try negative 4 times 2. I mean, think about it. Negative 4 times 2 is a negative 8. That product is a negative 8, but the sum is going to be a negative 2. So if you think about what really works, it'll be negative 8 times 1, because negative 8 times 1 is a negative 8, and when you add them up, you do get a negative 7, which is what you wanted. So these are the two numbers you're going to use. So the answer is going to be m minus 8y times m plus n. Now remember, that's a 1, but don't put a 1 there. It's understood to be a 1, so leave it as m plus n. Don't say m plus 1n. It looks better if you say just m plus n. Okay? And before you go, and always check. M times m is n squared. A negative 8n times a positive n is a negative 8n squared. The outer, you get positive mn. The inner, you get a negative 8mn. And when you add them up, you get a negative 7mn, which is what you wanted. So that's answer number 8. So number 8, the answer is m minus 8n times m plus n. So m minus 8n times m plus n. Okay, number 9, you have 3x squared minus 9x plus 6. So 3x squared minus 9x plus 6. This time the GCF here is 3. So you want to take out the 3. You want to factor out the 3. So I'm going to get 3 times x squared minus 3 times 3x is 9x. And then 3 times a positive 2 is a positive 6. All right. Now figure what this part is. So let's go off to and figure what this is. So x squared minus 3x plus 2. So here we're going to factor as two binomials. And we use the idea of FOIL, product, and sum. FOIL, product, and sum. Okay, so x times x is x squared, so that's fine. So that takes care of the f. Now the last. I need two numbers whose product is 2. So I need this product to be 2. And when I do the outer and the inner, I need that sum to be a negative 3. So I need that sum to be a negative 3. All right, so the only possibility, if you think about it, the only possibility would be a negative 2 and a negative 1. Because a negative 2 times a negative 1 is a positive 2. And when you add them up, you do get the sum of these two numbers to be a negative 3, which is what you wanted. So this right here goes here. So it'll be x minus 2 times x minus 1. Now be careful, that's not the answer to the original problem. This is the answer to if you were to factor this. So you got to remember the original problem, you factor out a GCF. So that GCF has to be in your answer. So I'm going to get 3 times these two binomials that go here. So it'll be 3 times x minus 2 times x minus 1. All right, so that's the answer to number 3. So I get 3 times x minus 2 times x minus 1. Okay, number 10. Number 10, we have this. We have 2x cubed plus 10x squared plus 12x. So 2x cubed plus 10x squared plus 12x. Okay, so the GCF, I always look for GCF first. The GCF is 2x. That's your GCF. So I'm going to factor out a 2x. When I factor out the 2x, I get 2x times x squared is 2x cubed. 2x times a positive 5x is a positive 10x squared. 2x times a positive 6 is a positive 12x. So then, just like we did here, right here, we do the same thing here. So we can go off to the side, and we're going to figure out how to factor x squared plus 5x plus 6. All right, so two binomials. We're going to use the idea of FOIL, product, sum. So FOIL, product, sum. All right, so the first of FOIL is easy. X times x is going to give me x squared. So that's easy. So x and x. All right, now I need the last two terms, the last times the last, to be a positive 6. So I need the product to be 6, and when I do the out and the inner, I need that sum to be a positive 5x. So I need the sum to be 5. All right, so the only possibility, if you think about it, is 3 and 2. 3 times 2 is 6, and when I add them up, I get 5. So those are the numbers that are going to go here. So I get x plus 3 times x plus 2. Now remember, what you found was the factorization of this, but we got to go back to the original problem. In the original problem, this was what I wanted to factor. So this GCF is part of your answer because it is 2 is a factor and x is a factor. All right, so I get 2x times x plus 3 times x plus 2. All right, so that's the answer to number 10. So number 10, you have 2x times x plus 3 times x plus 2. All right, number 11. All right, let's do number 11. Okay, so 11, you have x squared plus 3xy minus 10y squared. So x squared plus 3xy minus 10y squared. So the GCF is 1, so I'm going to go directly to two binomials. I'm going to use the FOIL, product, and sum. And so in terms of FOIL, x times x is x squared, so that's fine. I need these two right here, these two terms. The last times the last has to be a negative 10y squared. So I know that in order to get a y squared, this has to be a y and this has to be a y. So now I got to figure out what these two coefficients here, these two numbers need to be to get a negative 10. So I need the product to be negative 10, and when I look at the outer and the inner, I need that sum. When I combine like terms, I need that sum to be a positive 3xy. So I need that sum to be a positive 3. All right, so it looks like the only possibility to think about it would be 5 and 2. But let's say we choose negative 5 and 2. So negative 5 times 2 is a negative 10, and when I add them up, I do get a negative 3. But I wanted a positive 3. So all that means is that since these are opposites, I just got to switch these signs. So let me try 5 and negative 2. And that works because 5 times negative 2 is a negative 10. And when I add them up, I do get a positive 3, which is what I wanted. So the answer is going to be x plus 5y times x minus 2y. All right, and always check yourself just like we did before. So I get x plus 5y times x minus 2y. Okay, so right here, I'm sorry, x plus 3y times x minus 2y. Okay, and then finally number 12, you have 3a cubed b minus 3a squared b squared minus 6ab cubed. So this time the GCF is going to be, in terms of the coefficients, 3, negative 3, and negative 6. The GCF is 3. 3 goes in all of those evenly, and that's the largest. Okay, if you look at these, there's an a in every term, so there's going to be at least one factor of a here. So there are 3 here, 2 here, 1 here, a to the first. So you take out the one with the smallest exponent, so you take out a. For the b's, there's a b to the first here, a b to the second here, and a b to the third power here. Since there are b's in every term, you're going to factor out a b, and the exponent is going to be the one with the smallest exponent. So there's your GCF. So I get 3ab times, all right, so we got to figure out what this is going to be. 3ab times a squared is 3a cubed b, because remember when you multiply like bases, a times a squared, you add exponents. 1 plus 2 is 3. Minus 3ab times ab, a negative ab, 3ab times a negative 3ab is a negative 3a squared b. A times a is a squared, b times b is b squared. Minus 3ab times a negative 2b squared. So 3ab times a negative 2b squared is a negative 6a squared. 3 times a negative 2 is a negative 6. B times b squared is b cubed, and then you have this a. Okay? All right, so then we got to figure out what this is. So let's try and factor this. So let's go off to the side right here. A squared minus ab minus 2b squared. And let's go ahead and factor this as two binomials. And again, I'm going to use the idea of FOIL, product, and then sum. Okay, so a times a is going to be a squared. So the first part here is easy. All right, let's go about the last right here. The last. I need two things whose product is a negative 2b squared. So I know that there's got to be a b here and a b here to get that b squared. So I'm going to put a b and a b. All right, so again, remember, I need the product to be negative 2b squared. So I need that product to be negative 2. And when I look at the outer and the inner, I need that sum to be a negative 1. That's a 1 right here. Negative 1ab. So I need the sum to be negative 1. And so if you think about it, the only way that's possible, the only way to get two numbers whose product is a negative 2, and when I add them up, I get negative 1, is if this is a negative 2 and this is a positive 1. Because negative 2 times positive 1 is a negative 2, and when you add them up, you do get negative 1. So those are the numbers we're going to use, so that's going to go here. So a minus 2 times b, and then a plus 1 times b, but don't put the 1 here, leave it alone. It's understood to be a 1. But remember, you just factored this. that's not what the original problem was. This was the original problem. So you got to remember, you factor out a 3ab, so that's got to be part of your answer. So the answer is 3ab times a minus 2b times a plus b. So remember, the 3ab are factors of your polynomial. So 3 is a factor, a is a factor, b is a factor, and so is a minus 2b, and so is a plus 2b. So that's the answer number 12. So that's going to go here, number 12. So you have 3ab times a minus 2b times a plus b. Okay, so hopefully this did help you.